Hello wonderful people, welcome back to the channel. Jonathan Ralph here. Today we are looking at something very exciting indeed. Previously on this channel I talked about a golden visa option that required just $399,000 of investable capital in order to access it. Now this was a 5-star spa and golf resort just to the north of Lisbon that came with asset backing and a guaranteed buyback. You guys loved it, the response we had was overwhelmingly positive, and a link to this video is in the description box down below. However, we did have some feedback that made us stop and think. Now, many of the viewers of this channel got in touch, and you know who you are, so thank you very much for doing that, saying that it was all very well and good reducing the capital entry point from 500,000 to 399,000 euros. But this is still far higher than the old minimum requirement of 280,000 euros before the rules were changed in 2023. What about those people that do not have nearly 400,000 euros available to invest? Well, that was a problem, of course. Now, Portugal had raised the investment threshold to 500,000 euros for a reason. And whilst we didn't necessarily agree with it, we did have to respect that decision. That being said, we serve our clients first, and many of you were left frustrated at missing the deadline with the lower investment amount last year and were therefore left without a solution, no recourse. And so, we have now designed a solution that aims to solve this problem, which I will be sharing with you today. In short, you can now access our most popular golden visa investment ever, which is the Royal Obidos Spa and Golf Resort, for just 325,000 euros of investable capital. Yes, it is fully legal. Yes, it is fully compliant. We would not be the #1 golden visa agency in Portugal if we did not ensure that our investment cases were airtight. So let me tell you how this works. Before we get to that though, a quick refresh for those of you who have not yet seen this option before. So what is the Royal Obidos Spa and Golf Resort? Well, it's a 5-star spa and golf resort, as I just mentioned, originally built in 2012 and then expanded in 2021. The hotel is fully operational. It is rated 8.7 out of 10 on booking.com with over 2,700 reviews at the time of recording. Phase 2, that initial expansion in 2021, consisted of several new one-bedroom apartments and studios, which you can see in front of the main hotel building on the right-hand side of your screen there. And these were actually our most popular golden visa investment cases ever. And that was before the law changed, of course, and real estate no longer qualified for the golden visa. Now, important note here, the investment on offer from 2024 onwards is not a real estate investment, as that would simply not qualify under the current golden visa rules. Rather, we need to use a qualifying structure instead. Okay, phase 2 itself was enormously successful, and last year the hotel achieved an occupancy rate of 87%, which is frankly outstanding in the hospitality space with the seasonality curve. For that reason, the hotel needs to expand. And phase 3 is aiming to do just that, allowing for the extra demand, and that's why additional investment options are now on the table. And what does that entail? Essentially, it means building 32 new one-bedroom units to exactly the same specification as before, and they are scheduled to be completed at the end of 2025, as at the time of recording. Now, one-bedroom units at Royal Obidos are 88 square meters in size. They have a stunning panoramic sea view and are finished in keeping with a 5-star luxury hotel, as you would expect. The golf course surrounding the complex is a PGA-level golf course designed by the late, great Severiano Seve Ballesteros and is renowned across Europe. And just to make this even sweeter, the owner can stay in their unit, their one-bedroom apartment, for up to 6 weeks per year after construction has completed. Now, that really is quite the benefit indeed. It is a month and a half of free stay in what is quite frankly a beautiful 5-star resort. It's a wonderful development. I've sent many clients there prior to acquiring their own unit. Everyone has always come back with rave reviews. So do check out the booking.com page to find out why real hotel guests love staying there so much and get familiar with the development if you'd like to get a little bit into the details of what we're looking at here. As regards the location, it is ideally situated just outside of the historic town of Obidos. The hotel is one of 4 5-star resorts in the area. It's right next to the Obidos Lagoon, which is a local water sports hub. It's also just a few minutes away from the famed Obidos town itself and just under an hour's drive north of Lisbon. If you take a taxi from the airport, that should cost you in the region of €55, but there is also a hotel shuttle bus available to get you up there if you need. As regards Obidos itself, the whole town is classed as one of the 7 wonders of Portugal due to its immaculate preservation as a medieval settlement. It is a UNESCO City of Literature. It attracts its fair share of cultural tourism, in addition to the water sports crowds that it would attract for the surfing, the windsurfing, and the kayaking scene in the area. Now, of course, it is a renowned golfing hub, and some of the local courses are among the finest in Europe. Onto the investment case itself then. So how does it work and how can we actually obtain the Golden Visa for just €325,000 of investable capital? Well, 3 options. Viewers of my channel may recognize option 1, which is the original investment case. Now, as I mentioned, there is a full link, there's a full video to this, there's a full video outlining this option, which I will link to in the description box down below. But just to recap the top line, here there is a €101,000 upfront return, which covers a 6-year investment period. Now, this €101,000 upfront return can be used to effectively discount the amount of capital that you need to invest to qualify for the Golden Visa, meaning that you can access it for €399,000 plus the fees associated. There is a guaranteed exit for €500,000 or the title deed to a 1-bedroom apartment. Now, I'll explain more on this in just a second, but this leads to a minimum cash investment case of €101,000. Fairly straightforward. The second option is new. Now, the same upfront return is offered of €101,000, but we now have the option of a loan agreement to reduce the capital requirements further. This is a private loan agreement in partnership with the developer, and the developer would offer you a flat €74,000 loan at a fixed rate of interest of 5% per year on the capital. Now, that loan is repaid either monthly or quarterly over a 3-year period. The exit conditions would remain exactly the same. And when we account for the total cost of the loan, that would reduce the investment case to €89,900, which is still a great return for the capital invested. As I say, we will be diving into the details in just a second, but this is the top line summary. The third option is also new. Here we have the same loan facility, but here the loan is not actually repaid. If we choose this, if we go down this route, the investment rate would actually double on the loan, and the value of the debt would then be offset against the guaranteed buyback instead of being repaid. This means that there is a fixed buyback value of €381,600 when essentially you only had to contribute €325,000. So of course this reduces the total return because the interest rate is higher and we're not repaying the loan, but there is still a total return of €56,600 for an effective contribution that is just over the minimum investment thresholds that we used to see under the previous rules. So, as you can see, the Golden Visa just got a lot more accessible, and this is fantastic news for those that were left out in the cold after the rule changes last year. I did promise you that we would take a closer look at the details, so let's do that now. Firstly, option 1, where no loan is taken. Now, as with all Golden Visa investments, a €500,000 investment is of course required. And as we mentioned, this is into the Royal Obidos Spa and Golf Resort. However, despite the €500,000 entry point, in this case, the income yield for the lifetime of investment, which is €101,000, will be paid to you up front, and that's just over 20% return over the 6-year period. This means that before accounting for admin fees, government fees, you can access the Portugal Golden Visa for €399,000 plus fees. So still a good discount on the original €500,000. Now, upfront yields like this 101,000 euros, which are available across all three options, they are quite rare, to say the least, especially when the return level is as high as this. So, if an investment of €500,000 feels like too much, but you can still stretch to €399,000 plus the fees in order to access the Golden Visa, this could be a very interesting route in for you. The €101,000 is the full investment case for 6 years, so no more income in that period, but there is the possibility of additional returns, but at the end of the investment journey. More on that in a second, but the income return is fixed up front, giving you absolute certainty as to where you stand from day one. Now, perhaps the most important part of a large investment like this is the exit strategy. So how will I actually get my money back once I have the citizenship? What are my options? Well, 2 guaranteed exit strategies with this investment. The first is an exit to €500,000 cash after the 6-year investment period is complete. We can, of course, always extend these timelines if you need to do so for your citizenship journey, but this is a quick, straightforward way to receive your capital back with a total profit of €101,000, which is not bad at all. Ultimately, you could even go for a second option. So this is the alternative which we have here, which is rolling the funds into a 1-bedroom unit in the Royal Obidos development after the investment case, instead of receiving the payout. Now, these units were independently appraised at €490,000 a piece in 2022. You'd like to think that they would be worth significantly more by the time we get to exit. So the choice is yours. Would you continue with a real estate investment or take the profits out as cash? Now, if this is a little overwhelming, don't worry. You don't have to decide whether to choose the cash or the real estate option for the first 4 years. So what most of my clients are doing, what I would usually recommend, is sitting back, watching the market, seeing how it grows or evolves, and then taking a decision once we know just how much the value of the real estate has been able to appreciate during those first 4 years. Another interesting point, property, of course, no longer qualifies for the Golden Visa in Portugal, which is why we're not investing in real estate, we are investing in the underlying business. So it is increasingly difficult as a result to find investments that offer a security guarantee like this. Here, of course, like I mentioned, we're not investing in real estate, but rather the company managing it. So we still qualify for the Golden Visa under the rules for 2024. But we can build in the added benefit of being able to use the real estate as security collateral. So if anything happens to the hotel during this time, if anything happens to the owner of the real estate during this time, I should say, you will receive the title deed to the real estate. Now, this reduces the risk of the investment considerably versus the other options that are available in the marketplace. We will look at this in a little bit more detail in just a second, but let's try to keep it focused on the investment case for now. Okay, option 2 then, which is the loan option with the repayment. Now, the basic investment case is the same as option 1, with the same upfront €101,000 return. There is, of course, the €74,000 developer loan, which then brings down the capital requirements to just €325,000. So what do we have here? We have the original €500,000 investment requirement minus the upfront return minus the loan, which then gives us an essential capital entry point for an investor of €325,000. The loan is then repaid over 3 years. If we do this monthly, that would mean €2,364 per month. This means that the cost of the loan, the cost of the interest, is €3,700 per year, which gives us a total interest cost of €11,100 over the 3 years. The loan is open to all investors, no credit check is necessary, and the exit is exactly the same as option 1. So €500,000 cash or the title deed to the real estate, assuming that you've repaid the loan on time and in full. The total return, therefore, is the upfront return of €101,000 minus the cost of the loan, which is the €11,100, which then gives us the total return of €89,900. So this is therefore a great option for investors with low liquidity but good income. which would therefore mean that repaying the loan would be easy for them. It's perfect for those of you that are not willing to sell off property, not keen necessarily on liquidating so much of a stock portfolio in order to fund the investment, where 325,000 euros of accessible capital is something that is achievable easily for you. Option 3 is very similar as well, just this time without the loan repayment. The upfront return is of course the same, 101,000 euros for the 6 years. The loan amount is the same, 74,000 euros, although here no repayment occurs. The capital requirements are the same at just 325,000 euros. Because the loan isn't being repaid, however, the interest rate is doubled. The cost of the loan is therefore 7,400 euros per year in interest, which amounts to a total cost of 44,400 euros over the 6 years. Again, the loan is open to all investors, and as the loan is not being repaid, the value of the debt is instead offset, subtracted from the value of the buyback. The guaranteed exit, therefore, is 500,000 euros minus the loan of 74,000 euros, minus the total interest cost of 44,400 euros, which then gives us a cash exit value of 381,600 euros. Of course, there is no option to exit to real estate under option 3 because the capital that you've contributed is far less than the value of the property. Total returns, however, are still very healthy at 56,600 euros. That is, of course, when we take the upfront return of 101,000 euros and subtract the total cost of the loan facility, which is the 44,400, giving us 56,600 euros. Now, this is the ideal solution for anyone that's looking at the Portugal Golden Visa via a secured investment, but at the minimum possible cash outlay. So essentially, this is for those of you looking to liquidate the minimum of assets you already have on your balance sheet, or potentially those of you with lower levels of liquidity. Okay, so you asked for it, and with these 3 scenarios, I like to think that we've delivered and we've offered something for everyone according to the circumstances that you are personally facing. Okay, so 3 different options, suitable for different client cases, suitable for different investor profiles. But what makes the Royal Obidos option special in today's market? Let's recap why this has been so popular. Well, number 1, no fees. There are effectively no entry fees, no subscription fees, no exit fees, no performance fees at any time. It is easy to understand. It is very transparent. What you see is what you get. The exit strategy is flexible. It's entirely at your discretion. You can either choose a quick exit to cash or get access to potentially greater returns on investment by exiting to real estate instead, once you've obtained your citizenship, of course, and of course, assuming that we haven't gone for option 3. Number 3, a fixed journey. Now, I mentioned that this is transparent, but the fact that returns are paid up front means that you can now access the Golden Visa for much less capital than the alternatives in the market, and now with these new options, from as little as just 325,000 euros. That is, of course, in addition to greatly reducing the risk on the investment yourself. Now, if you've been paid the returns up front, that essentially shifts the risk away from you as the investor and onto the hotel itself. Of course, the hotel operator has paid you for 6 years of returns. It is now their responsibility to get the right level of margin for their asset to essentially pay themselves back. So this is great for your ongoing peace of mind because you are where you are every step of the way. You know just how much you've made in terms of your return. Now, this is an important point considering that this is a multi-year investment journey. It's going to last for several years. Summing up then, so this investment option is truly the standout in the market right now. Why? Okay, no hidden costs, no surprises. The returns are strong, they're paid up front, the investment is asset backed for fantastic levels of investor security, and we believe that this is the lowest risk profile in the market at the moment, especially true if you only need to part with 325,000 euros rather than a full 500,000 in order to access it. An obvious question, the elephant in the room that I'm sure many of you will be thinking of. If real estate no longer qualifies for the Golden Visa, then how on earth does this investment still qualify? Let me just address that now quickly. Whilst we have real estate as the security for the investment, and the ability to exit to real estate after the 6 years, assuming we go with either option 1 or option 2, it is important to remember we are investing into a company for those 6 years. We're not investing into real estate per se. The exact structure that will be used will depend on client circumstances, and we'll define that together in a personal Zoom meeting before we discuss next steps, before we provide a full quotation, and before, of course, we get started. Now, of course, full legal opinions and detailed information will be available in those private meetings one-to-one, so feel free to book in some time or drop me an email if you'd like to know more on this. I will not be discussing this in a public forum because this should be tailored according to individual investor circumstances. Okay, a bit of a deeper dive then into security. Now that is a very, very important point. It's completely essential that we understand your exposure in the event of various worst case scenarios before we even contemplate getting started with such a significant investment. Now, these scenarios are of course highly unlikely to happen, and we at Holborn, we take every precaution to ensure that the investments we work with are the most solid in the market. We are the market leader in Portugal for the Golden Visa. We haven't had a default yet, and we don't plan to start now. However, it is prudent that we look at various scenarios. So the first one, what would happen if the hotel operator were to go bust? Well, you've already been paid up front for the full 6-year rental period, so this would not affect you in the slightest. No problem here if anything happens to the hotel operator. Okay, more importantly, what would happen if the real estate developer goes bust? Now, the real estate developer are actually the landlords here. They're the underlying owners. They're the owners of the underlying asset, which is then leased to the hotel operator. So what would happen if the real estate developer went bust? Now, this is a little bit more complicated, so let's break it down into 2 different scenarios. Now, first, if the bankruptcy occurs before the construction is completed, and that's at the end of 2025 at time of recording, then the hotel operator would simply take over the development to ensure its completion to schedule. Now, the hotel operator quite simply cannot afford to leave a half-finished building site in the middle of their highly profitable 5-star hotel resort. So they have contractual agreements in place that would allow them to ensure that it is finished as planned. Now, of course, if the bankruptcy were to occur after the site had already completed construction, this would, of course, be more favourable, simply because we would then know the value of the completed asset and we know it's already been finished. And then, of course, you would then own the underlying asset. You would acquire the underlying asset in the event that the real estate developer went bust as a result of forward contracts that we have in place. These are your exit strategies at the end of the 6 years. So in the event of the real estate developer going bankrupt, you would automatically acquire the rights to the real estate. Now, final point here. So as the completed units were appraised at a value of 490,000 euros, and that was back in 2022, admittedly, it is highly likely that the real estate that you would acquire in the event of a bankruptcy event would be worth considerably more than this when we reach this point in time. Of course, it will depend. The value of the asset will, of course, change over time. We like to think it would appreciate over time, but of course, that is variable. Third scenario in that case. Now, what would happen if the hotel and the developer were both to go bust? Now, this is, of course, highly unlikely indeed, but it would be the worst case scenario. So we do need to consider it. We do need to account for it. Now, what would happen here? Well, essentially, we would need to liquidate the site to recover the capital and then repay investors. And the amount of capital that could be recovered would, of course, depend on how close to completion the project was. As a result, there might be a small chance of getting back less than you invested here, and that would be in the event the site remains unfinished. Okay, like I say, very, very unlikely. It would take something quite extraordinary for both the hotel operator and the real estate developer to both go bankrupt, but like I say, worth considering a worst case scenario. Regardless, in any of the above scenarios that you see on your screen here, your Golden Visa would be unaffected in any of them and would continue as normal. So not something that we should necessarily be giving too much headspace about at this stage. A few photos now just to show you the one-bedroom units from phase 2 that completed at the end of 2021. So this is the exterior, the building work that's taking place and now is going to be to exactly the same specification as phase 2. So essentially what you see here, these are real photos from the completed buildings, and they will be representative of the newly completed buildings that are newly constructed buildings, I should say, in scope for this investment. This is a view here of the interior of a standard one-bedroom. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture from the terrace that shows the view out to sea, which is a shame because I think that is a particular standout point of these units. Kitchen, living areas, like I say, self-catered accommodation in keeping with what you'd expect for a 5-star golf resort in the area. And if you'd like to know more about the development, I would urge you to take a look at the hotel's listing on booking.com. When you go there, you can read reviews from genuine hotel guests, understand why it is rated as fabulous on the site, which you can see there on the screen. You'll also have a lot more photos to go through, and you'll be able to familiarize yourself with the development itself. So to summarize then, what we are talking about here is an asset-backed Golden Visa option with a guaranteed buyback. The entry point is now as low as 325,000 euros of investable capital. Good luck finding anything that comes close to that in the market. So if liquidity is an issue for you, this is truly a fantastic option. The exit strategy is flexible at either a 500,000 euro cash out or less if we go with option 3 where the loan is not repaid, or the real estate purchase if you want to get access to further capital upside. The security mechanism is robust, it's well conceived, it's among the most resilient in the market. The investment case itself is upfront, so 101,000 euros paid upfront. Minimal risk to you, the investor. We are shifting the risk onto the hotel operator for them to ensure that they get the return on their investment. The investment case is therefore reliable, it is predictable, you know where you stand every single day of this investment journey. And with these 3 options, we have options that suit pretty much all budgets and circumstances if you are in the market for the Portugal Golden Visa. So, summarizing the summary, this is a low risk, low cost, low entry point investment case with very strong returns considering everything that comes with it. If you would like to go through the details, if you'd like to do a deeper dive, please feel free to reach out. It would be my pleasure to walk you through it. Personally, one-to-one over Zoom. My email address is on the screen there. It's jonathan.ralph@holdbonassets.com. I will, of course, put a booking link in the description box down below into my calendar for those of you that would like a personal chat. Recapping the 3 options on the screen very quickly. So option 1 is the no finance option. This is for investors with sufficient liquidity to access the Golden Visa for 399,000 euros plus the fees. Option 2 is the loan plus repayment option. So this is for investors looking for the lowest possible capital outlay initially, but then with enough income to repay the loan component. And then option 3 is the loan without repayment, and this is for investors looking for the lowest possible capital outlay to access the Golden Visa, period. Okay, so that is the investment covered. Now, I would just like to quickly recap the process to explain what to expect if you do decide to move forward with your own Golden Visa. The whole thing should take around 12 months, although these days there is still a bit of a backlog with the immigration authorities. So let's consider 12 to 18 months to be on the safe side. As you can see on the screen, we do most of this from the comfort of your home. This would include the kickoff, which is where we sign client agreements. We would then establish your administrative presence in Portugal by getting your tax numbers, opening your bank account. We would then ask you to send funds over to your Portuguese bank account to complete the investment. And once that's done, we will submit your Golden Visa application to the authorities for approval. Now, this is a key milestone. It will take us around 2 to 3 months to get here, less if you've already got the documentation ready, less if you've already got a bank account in Portugal, but let's consider 2 to 3 months to get here. Why is this a key milestone? Well, because once your application has been submitted to the online portal, then we will get what is called your ARI number, your Golden Visa case number, out of the system. That is then your proof of submission, and it is from that date that the timeline to citizenship will begin ticking. That's when the clock will start ticking for your eligibility for citizenship. It also protects your rights in the event of any future change in legislation for the Golden Visa, simply because it would be unconstitutional in Portugal to retroactively apply any change in legislation. So assuming that you've applied and we have that ARI number, that proof of submission, before any changes in legislation, you can be grandfathered in under the conditions at which you applied. Okay, so after that, it is simply a matter of processing times then. So it's with the government authorities. We need them to issue you what's called a pre-approval. When they have done that, you will then be invited over to Portugal for the biometric visit. So that requires leaving fingerprints, registering with the police, and we will support you in this. This is the only time that you need to be physically present in Portugal. We will, of course, meet you. We will take you to your appointment, explain everything, and make sure everything goes smoothly. It doesn't take very long, but we do need you here in Portugal for that. Once that's been done, we will then take care of the rest. Again, processing. So a little bit of waiting time there for the Golden Visa cards to be processed, then minted, printed, and then we will have them sent out to your home address. And then after that, it will just be a few short years before you'll be eligible for the dual nationality and the second passport. So a fairly straightforward process, even if it's not necessarily the shortest one in the world. Okay, what about the road to citizenship? So let's just cover this quickly. Well, firstly, as I mentioned, the clock to citizenship will now start ticking from the date that we make the application. And yes, the investment is made from your Portuguese account. As I mentioned, we get your ARI number. Now, as per the previous slide, we will ask you to come to Portugal for biometrics, get the residence cards printed, and then we'll have them sent out to you. The cards are valid for an initial 2-year period. And then after that time, we will need to renew them. The renewed card is then valid for another 2 years, and you will, of course, need to meet the ongoing criteria to do so, the same criteria at which we initially applied. Now, this would bring us to a total of 5 years, assuming that it takes us 12 months to get the Golden Visa initially. And then at this point, we are, of course, eligible to apply for citizenship. That said, a second renewal may still be required depending on the client case, so please do account for that in order to obtain the citizenship. Remember as well, we can only apply for citizenship once you've passed the CIPLA, the language test. This is an A2 level language test, which is not necessarily a very high level. It's essentially advanced beginner, but everyone that wants citizenship does need to pass this. Like I say, it's a lower barrier to entry than most other citizenship programs around the world that require a language component. You can take the test as many times as you like during the 5 years of qualification period to citizenship. You can even fail it as many times as you need to, but we do need to make sure that everyone that wants a citizenship ticks that box before we make the application. After the citizenship application has been approved and after we have your passports in hand, it is then that we should look to unwind the investment and return your capital to you, or follow whatever exit strategy we have designed together. Okay, quick word on who we are, what gives me the right to be talking about this, what gives me the right to be discussing potential investments in such a public forum. Well, let me quickly introduce who we are. So I'm a partner at Holborn Assets. That is one of the largest expat wealth management firms worldwide. We've been going for 25 years now, since 1998. We are currently the number one Golden Visa agent in Portugal. Our team has processed over 1,000 cases with a 100% success rate. We are rated 4.8 out of 5 on Trustpilot on the basis of more than 2,000 reviews. That is for our wider business, because of course we are not just Golden Visa agents, we are wealth managers as well. Our wealth management business incidentally looks after more than 20,000 clients around the world. Now, interestingly, our size and relevance in the market means that we can access exclusive investments with certain fund managers or even design our own. The investment that I've shared with you today is exclusive to our team. And when we have exclusive investments that we can advise on, that does mean that we can, in some circumstances, even add a little bit of flexibility or custom design it for individual client cases if needed. You might be surprised at just what we can do for you. So if you're in any way if you are in any way curious, I would recommend getting in touch to explore. And of course, that is always on a no cost, no obligation basis. You can book a meeting in with me by accessing my calendar directly using that QR code that's on the right-hand side of your screen. If you're on a mobile phone and you can't scan that QR code, then there is a link to my calendar in the description box down below. And yes, like I say, that link will take you directly to my calendar where you can book in a free consultation. As I say, we have access to unique investments like the Royal Obidos Spa and Golf Resort that you won't find anywhere else. We've designed them to be the best in the market, so it's very likely that a conversation is worth your while. If you aren't quite ready to book in a conversation, you can always drop me an email instead. I'm happy to help where I can with any questions. Please feel free to send that to jonathan.ralph@holbornassets.com. Okay, if you would like to recap the fundamentals of the Portugal Golden Visa, I would recommend checking out a previous video of mine. That's the video that you can see here on your screen. There's a link in the top right-hand corner of your screen as well. It will take you through everything that you need to know to ensure that this is indeed the right route for you before we start looking at any further details. And that's it for today. As I say, the next step is a consultation which will be completely free of charge. You can book into my diary using the QR code on your screen there, or the booking link which is in the description box down below. If you're watching this on a mobile phone, that is where you'll need to go. And if you've made it this far, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I know this is YouTube, so I am asking you the same as everyone else, but if you do that, then you will ensure that you're at the front of the queue for all the latest news and investment opportunities for the Portugal Golden Visa. If you'd like more background info on the Portugal Golden Visa, to make sure this is indeed right for you before we speak, the video I've just shown you in the previous slide, I'll put it in the in-screen here again so you can see it. It's the same video as I mentioned just a few moments ago, so feel free to click in there if you'd like to explore the program in a little more detail before taking things any further. Okay, that's it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your time today. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Take care. Bye for now.